What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. Yes, with your boy, Mike Goodwin, bowtie comedy, where we are winding. Well, by the time you've listened to this, the year has been wounded. It's gone. We're in 2024. I'd like to wish you a happy new year. And I often, always, for the most part, start podcasts with the On the Road Again segment. However, y'all know that I've been not on the road. I've been at the house, but I'll be back on the road this week. Actually, I'll be in Tampa, Florida, doing the Big Dad Energy Tour at the Tampa Improv or the Tampa Funny Bone. People are changing names of clubs pretty regularly. Then I'm doing a secret event on Sunday in Florida. Also, speaking of Florida, speaking of travel, speaking of on the road, they've closed the circus, right? And the clowns have nowhere to go. But you know where they go? They go to my comments. They show up in my comments. And I want to talk about that. I typically enjoy the comments. For the most part, doing what I do, I had to put out content. That's a part of building the brand, running my business. I would be irresponsible if I were not to post clips of my comedy, to post clips of the podcast, to post the content, speaking engagements, things that I do on the road. It would be irresponsible, it would be bad business practices in 2024 not to have a digital presence, have a digital footprint. Therefore, I do, which it kind of is outside of what I feel comfortable doing. By the time I was exposed or introduced to social media, I was in college for the most part. I do remember the beginning of Facebook, because Facebook, when it first started, you could only be friends with the people that were in the college network that you were a part of. So on Facebook, you could only friend and communicate with people that are actually at in a university. And you couldn't even become a member of Facebook without a university email. You had to have a university email. So I worked at the University of South Carolina. I didn't use my university email. I was an advisor to some student organizations. So I was able to use the student organization email, and I used to call myself the Legend, because I'm a big John Legend fan. And I guess at that point, I didn't want to, you could be anonymous. There was a way to be anonymous. I was working at the university, so I'm out here as the Legend. And I was the Legend for a very long time. But that was my introduction. I probably would, MySpace, and there was a Black Planet. That probably was the latter, like the end of my college career, maybe like my junior year. But when social media was in its, inception, I was an adult. I'm a grown man out here in these streets. I had to have been 25 years old, right? And it just wasn't intuitive. I didn't grow up on the tablet like my son. My son is always on the tablet, and I got to get the tablet from him sometime to restrict the tablet. So social media, especially we grew up, I'm old school, quote unquote. So we didn't keep people out your business. That was just the standard practice of the day. People, get out my business. That ain't none of your business. Maybe there's a social media conversation I need to have in an upcoming podcast. I'm not going to get distracted, but I do go to the comments. I enjoy the comments. For the most part, my comments are very encouraging. People are very complimentary. People are enjoying the content. They enjoy the comedy. Every now and then, somebody will be like, "Oh, this is not funny. I didn't laugh." All that. Yeah, those are that happens. But then there's people that just like, "Hey man, I don't know if you know how jokes work." That's the piece. And I don't even think it's I don't know. I don't think you know how jokes work. It's some people that's just trolls. Some people just get on social media. They say what they want to say. They make comment. They just throw the rock, hide the hand. And I was that guy in real life. I'm not that guy online. So there are some people that get on social media, and it's for giggles. There's another word that goes with the phrase, but for giggles, the messing around. It's nothing serious. They just out here with the shenanigans. They with all the word I didn't say earlier. They just out here being trolls, being argumentative, it makes them joy. It gives them joy. It makes them, man, it's like something to do. I guess it's like, I mean, when I watch an episode of a show I really like, maybe that's how I feel. Maybe that's how they feel when they come and leave crazy comments on people's pages. I don't know. I don't know these people personally. And if I were to have a conversation with them personally, I bet you wouldn't even be interested. These are probably people that are very dull individuals, but I don't know. This is me with my limited information being a little petty. However, there was a comment. I do this joke about the devil when the sun is shining, it's raining outside, devil's beating his wife. I heard that my entire life. I'm from Camden, South Carolina, born and raised. I didn't even really, I thought it was a joke, but the joke to me was like the phrasing of that was a real statement that people said when the sun was shining and it was raining outside. That's like somebody saying, hey man, the capital of Columbia, the capital of South Carolina is Columbia. I'm like, yes, of course it is. That's the way it is. So that phrasing, that statement, I've never thought that, there were other people in the South that had not heard that phrasing, or it wasn't a real thing. Like, so I'm doing this joke about the devil, and I got all these phrases. I got a run of jokes. I talk about my mom, and I talk about how the devil's busy, and so I have. It's just a part of a bigger kind of idea. But on social media, my team. First of all, I'm very seldom posting the stuff. I post some stuff, but the majority is I pay some people to post the stuff. And they post the stuff. They choose the stuff. They select the stuff. They post the stuff. One of the things they posted was the devil beating his wife clip, which in this day and time is very frowned upon. Domestic violence. Not that it was celebrated then, but people were beating wives. there's an undergarment, and I didn't mean to laugh. That wasn't humorous. There was an undergarment that we call a wife beater, right? So I get the phraseology may cause people to be taken aback, like, whoa, what in the way? Which I'm not making light of domestic violence by no stretch of the imagination. So that's one part of the joke that maybe catches people off guard, and it may be like, oh my God, you can't say these things. Now there's another part where people are like, I've never heard of this before. And I don't know, because it's online, they may say it in the way that I just said it. They may say it with oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that before. But because of how my argumentative, aggressive makeup is, when I read, I've never heard this before, I feel like, oh, you lying. Nobody says that. Like, I'm a little bit defensive. Like, why would I make this up? This is me sharing jokes with the world. Like, I'm from South Carolina. I've never heard this. So when I hear that, or when I read that, I am a little like, who you think you're talking to? There is a little bit of conflict. There's a little bit, but for the most part, I'm like, I start telling people, you're welcome. Like if they say they've never heard of this, you're welcome. I've just expanded because there are things I've never heard of before. And there's R&B. I love R&B music. There's R&B singers I've never heard of before. That doesn't mean they're not out here singing and making great music. So anyway, that has happened. But I've had this clown. I'm gonna call this guy a clown because first off, I didn't know that there was needed to be a unified understanding of what the South is. Like the area. When I think about the South, there's the places I'm thinking about. I think of South Carolina because this is where I'm from. Now, the term I do not like, I'm not a fan of. I don't use it typically. Is the Deep South. I don't like. It feels very pejorative. It seems very accusatory. Oh, they're down in the Deep South. Like, I could deal with the South, but I stay away from the Deep South. So I don't use that terminology. Like, I don't use Yankee. I don't use redneck in my typical vernacular. If you ever, then would be like, oh, now if there's a better way to, if I'm like, oh yeah, they're like a redneck bar. Like, I may say that, but I'm not saying that person's a redneck. These are redneck people. I don't do that. I'm not a fan of the labels. That's a conversation to be had because I think a lot about race and labels, and so there may seem to be some contradiction in what I'm saying. However, let's stay on task. The dude, we don't even say his name. We'll post it. In fact, I'm gonna make some content on this. But basically, the dude, all these people in the comments, and this guy's like, yo, Tennessee is not the South. Like, he's coming for people. Like, people like, I'm from the South. I'm from Tennessee. I've heard that my whole life. And so my man basically is in there like, what caught my eye? He's basically like, Tennessee's not the South. North Carolina's not the South. Kentucky's not the South. Now, there's no planet in which I live in which those three aren't the South. Those are clearly the South. I know there's some people in North Carolina that would like to say, hey, man, I'm from up north, because that's some like status, how we move type thing. But yo, you from the South, my man. Now, you might not be from the Deep South. You from the South. But I don't even know. Again, I know North Carolinians that they're Southern. But this is the dude. This dude is all in the comments. Yada, yada, yada. Like, y'all, that's Southeastern. Which led me to think, like, yo, what are you talking about? Are you a madman? But but like I said earlier, they've closed all the circuses. So the clowns have nowhere to go. And they find themselves in my comments. Now, if you're a person that doesn't believe North Carolina is in the South, Tennessee is in the South, I would love to hear from y'all. I would love, and again, we're not talking about direction either, because the same person said Tennessee's Texas is the South. It was like, so I think what he was communicating is that the direction, like if you the bottom of the state or the United States, you're the South. Kentucky's not at the bottom. North Carolina is not at the. So I don't, man. Yeah. That was a phrase we used to say we use online. My interwoven mechanism starts to state of disregard that I cannot, without any degree, properly. I can't. My interwoven chrometer is such a state of. I don't know. Hey man. Look. I understand directionally somebody said like Southeast. Oh, that's the East Coast. North Carolina's the East Coast. It's the South. And I hate that I spent so much time talking about this at the beginning of the podcast, but I think this is something worth exploring, because number one, I'm gonna tell you what I think about in the South, and I think about the Confederacy. I think that's what we begin to think about the South. There was the Southern, there was the Confederacy, and there was the North. Now we can get into some conversation about Missouri, because hey. Then I was also thinking red states, but hey man, them folks over there, right? The Dakotas and Wyoming, like they purple, they maroon, they super red. So it's not necessarily red states, because North Carolina can be a little bluish. Georgia can be blue sometimes. Well, people say that, like people will say Atlanta's not Georgia. So Atlanta blue, Georgia red, right? So red states doesn't often communicate into the totality of what we're talking about. But you really, into this, I never thought about any people not knowing what the South was. But it's maybe a great conversation to be had in another podcast. And again, I'm going to make a whole clip about the South. And this man said North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee, not the South. What are we even talking about? The SEC is the South, but that's Southeastern. Nobody's like, yo, I'm from the Southeastern part of the country. No, you either from up north, you from down south, you from out west, you from the Midwest, you from the East Coast. Now, somebody say they're from East Coast, but we thinking that's like New York, Delaware. Now, I read this article in the New York Times. They had like the South from Texas to Oklahoma, from Florida to Delaware. And then they had Kentucky, West Virginia, and DC in the South also. Something to evaluate. Hey, I love to hear from you. Y'all can email me at info@comedianmikegoodwin.com. I want to understand. If I'm incorrect, I'm willing. I'm a big man. I can admit being wrong. I'm kind of a resident expert of the South, matter of fact. However, I'm open. I'm open to hear from those that have a difference of opinion. Now, for the moment we've been all waiting for in this podcast, name of the podcast, The Best Advice Ever podcast. Going back. Yeah, but this is some of the best advice somebody gave me. Select the power word for your year. Yeah, what's the word that will be the intention for your 2024? What you trying to get out of it? I had a buddy of mine tell me about this. I think it was a football coach that does this. Maybe does it with his team, and then my buddy who's a fan of this team, he adopted it. But then I'm also part of a group called Daniel's Den with Pastor Darius Daniels. And they're talking about the power word for 2024. So my power word, I'm gonna share with y'all my power word. But my best advice ever today is to hey man, list the word that will represent your 2024. What's the energy that you're trying to bring to this year? I mean, last year, I'll show you my last year word for me was resurgence. I felt like I needed to go back to the basics. I gotten a little disoriented. I'd gotten spread out. I wasn't as focused. I wasn't as concentrated in the things that I wanted to do. I was running down a number of rabbit trails that wasn't even my trails. Other people had suggested trails for me. So this 2023, my goal and my word was to have a resurgence, get back to what led me to here, what got me to, the place that I had arrived. And I feel very solid about when, like the decisions and choices I made over the course of my life. I felt very good about, hey man, I for a good part, I mean, I'm open to what God shares and prayer and discovering a word, but but for the large part, I'm pretty clear what my path is and where I'm supposed to be headed. I've been pretty consistent in that regard. But over the last few years, I mean, COVID definitely threw a whole monkey wrench. And I don't even know what a monkey wrench is. People use that terminology. I need to go and do some research on the monkey wrench. What's the difference? What are the different types of wrenches? You got the monkey wrench, but I don't know I don't know about the giraffe wrench. Is there elephant wrench? Nope. Why does it? The birds get a wrench? Nope, just the monkeys. Somebody threw the monkey wrench in my year in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. Like it's been I can remember when COVID hit and people like prognosticators and even talking to the guy that does a lot of booking for me was saying that a lot of folks would not be back into normal, especially events, doing conferences, live in-person events until 2024. And that seems so far away. I said, like, what? Like, for the most part, things are going to be virtual. They're going to be small. I forgot the terminology we used to use. Socially distanced events. 2024 seems so far away. It's here. We should be doing full-on live events, concerts, conferences. And for the most part, I believe that we are back. And I think we've been back for some people know. People often ask me, this is a joke I use. If somebody will ask me, like, how did COVID, impact your business? I said, man, I do a lot of red states, so it didn't really, it affected me, but I had some options, right? Well, that was my word for 2023, resurgent, really getting back to the essence of who I am. I mean, at my core, man, I'm really like, when I'm not distracted, when I'm locked in, man, I'm getting it done. What has happened though over the years, I've gotten some success, man. When you get success, man, you eat better, you sleep longer, your days off seem to be more desired than the days on, right? And yeah, so I got a little soft, man. I got a little distracted. And so 2023 was for me to get refocused and to resurge. So resurge was my 2024 with 2023. Well, the word for this year is action. Yeah. 2024 is action. I'm talking about unrelented. I'm talking about action. I don't care if I don't have all the information. I execute action. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Let's get the data. I got all the ideas. I got all the suggestions, all the people that say, yeah, man, that'd be great. I would love for you to do something like that. And I never execute. Oh, I got these books, content idea. I got ideas all in the book. No, action. Let's record them. Yeah. Let's get them recorded. Let's get them uploaded to the internet and let people weigh in on it, and we'll know better. We got content that I've done. It didn't all work. It didn't give me a great ROI, but hey, let's go back in there and let's use some of this AI. Let's just grab the stuff that was working in the videos. If it was a 3-minute video, there's got to be a minute in there that works. Go get it. So that's 2024 action. I'm talking about action. I'm talking about execution. I'm talking about pastor is he's pastor, but hip hop preacher, E.T. He says execution is worship. So that's my year. My year for 2024 is action. Get it done, man. Quit jibber jabbing. Quit yammering. Action. Execute. Ready. Aim. Fire. And then there's some people that like ready, fire, aim. Action. That's my power word for 2024. What's yours? I would love to hear. Again, you can email me. You can send it on social media. You can make comments right here in the YouTube page. You're gonna see more videos on YouTube. Action, baby. Action. So if there's some videos that you would want me to, some content you want me to share, want me to shoot, send it to me. This is the year of action. Wrapping up this podcast with the mind of Mike, right? I'm always sharing my mind, but this is something particular I see. I just saw this social media, and I don't know, man. Maybe it's the times we live in. And this is, again, my personal opinion. I feel like people don't want to be old. And maybe when I was young, those people that were older than me didn't want to be old. But I think they didn't have a problem being old. And again, I think even when you say the word old, it feels so negative. It seems so pejorative. It seems heavy. And I'm not using old as a negative thing. I'm just using old as a description. Like this camera I'm looking at, this is a black camera. I'm like, no, that camera's black. Oh my God. You can't say that. Don't say that. You wouldn't want to offend the camera. It's a black camera, man. People old, man. If you done been on this earth and you've seen, let's say, 8 presidential administrations, you're not young. If your birth certificate has a 1 and a 9 on it, you're not young. Now, I'm not saying I don't know what I'm saying, but I do know on social media I saw this guy, because that's what we say now. Like even out of church, you can't call them. It used to be the willing workers of the senior choir. Can't be senior choir now. You got to be the seasoned choir. You got to be something else. It's like words we can't say. You can't say, "Hey man, that dude broke into my home." No, we had a home invasion. A home invasion? That doesn't sound menacing. That doesn't sound dangerous. A breaking in, dude's a drug addict. He is a junkie. No, he's self-medicating. He has a substance abuse problem. Oh, he's not old. I just heard somebody, I saw this on social media. My man put actively aging. You doing what? Actively aging. Hey man, we all are actively aging. Nobody's inactively aging. That's dead. Them people dead. If you inactively aging, you dead. Hey man, I think there's valor, honor. I think there's something to be said about getting older, man, getting seniority, deference. Nuh-uh. When people say they actively aging, don't call me, oh, I ain't old, don't call me grandmother. You gotta call me Meemaw and Pawpaw and Gigi and Wee Wee. And again, I'm not there. And when I get there, I'm like, your granddaddy. Granddaddy. Yes, sir. Granddaddy Mike. That's what we doing out here. But maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't see no problem. I don't see nothing wrong with getting old. I don't see that wrong, man. People out here actively aging. Because I'm actively aging. I'm aging. I'm not what I'm telling you, man. This is the oldest I've ever been in my life. I am the oldest I've ever been, and I did not anticipate being here. I'm not far from 50, man. The 50. And you know how I feel? I feel good. Man. I don't even really, you got to remind me that I'm aged I am. And people will. Oh, people remind you. Oh, they let you know. Especially you, these young folks, they let you know. I go to an event with my fraternity. What up, old school? What up, OG? Ain't nobody. Ain't nobody OG. Yeah, I'm OG, bro. Embrace it. Accept it. I'm one of the elder. I'm getting elder status. Elder paperwork will be submitted on behalf of me. And I should embrace that, man. If I'm out here trying to be the young folks, who gonna lead? Who's gonna be wisdom and sage advice? Who's gonna provide perspective and mentorship? If I'm trying to run with you now, I do agree. I'm not don't put me out the pasture yet. I understand that sentiment. I understand that. I'll just watch the Kevin Hart and Chris Rock special on Netflix, and Chris Rock was basically saying, hey man, don't put me in the Hall of Fame. I'm still in the game. So I get that. If there's there's some people that are a little older than me and they still like, I'm in the game. I'm out here in these streets. Give me my respect. I ain't in these streets. I'm at the house with my wife and family. But yeah, man, this is what I think about In the Mind of Mike. Man, thank y'all again for tuning in to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. I hope that 2024 will be the best year ever. I'm excited about it. Also, a reminder is Happy New Year. Not Happy New Year's. It's only 1 year. What you're not going to do is be out here grammatically incorrect with this New Year situation. But again, thank y'all for tuning in, man. I'll see you next week. Same bat channel, same bat place. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate it. I'm out. Peace.